The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Getting to Know You. My name is Joe Nash. Today we're going to be talking about the Albany Institute of History and Art, some current, ongoing exhibits, and upcoming. We have with us Chief Curator Doug McCombs and Aine Leader-Nagy. She's a Public Relations and Marketing Coordinator, and you've been here before, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Before we talk to Doug about specific exhibits, I just want to ask Aine how the late summer, fall, how have the crowds been? What's been?
The crowds have been good. We've had great people, really interested folks coming for some of our Saturday art making programs where they're able to come and make art with artists that are featured in the 2014 exhibition by artists of the Mohawk Hudson region. The artists are actually coming in and guest hosting some of those programs, and the people who have attended them, and they could be kids or non-kids, they have been really excited to be able to have access to those artists. So they've done felting projects or painting projects, mixed media projects and things like that, and those are continuing through the end of the year.
Some of the kids get to meet the actual artists.
Yes, and work hands-on with them on a project, and it's just included with museum admission, and it's a great way to meet a local artist who has worked in the show.
Now, have you been to some of them? What kind of things would kids ask an artist?
Well, actually, one of the things was we have a person on staff who was able to bring her daughter to one of these events, and it was felting, and she was able to do this really multi-stepped process with the artist who does felting and make the felt and dye it and work with it, and went home with this completed project that she would be able to use with her dolls, which she's very into fashion right now, so somehow she was able to take her interests and meld them with the project, and the artist was able to work with her she was there for several hours, actually. She was quite devoted to it, and had a great time. And then another woman came in to do a painting project and sat there and painted for, she made I think 5 paintings when she was there, just sat down, and it was an opportunity to work in an art environment with a painter and kind of ask their help, but also use their own creativity to create a project and take it home with them afterwards.
And one other thing I was going to ask you before we started, I heard you say, before we started to Doug here, one of the things I'm going to talk to Doug about is the coverlets and quilts. You said people coming from out of New York State to see this.
Yes, we had some visitors who were from Delaware the other day to come and see the show, which was really exciting because they came to see the coverlets, because these ones haven't been out in over 30 years, and they are quite rare and unusual, and the people who do know this type of material are really interested in seeing it, and they're spreading the word among their friends and peers who work on these projects as well. So that's exciting.
That goes until when?
March 15th, I believe, is when the show closes. We've extended it a week from the original date.
So now we're going to talk to Doug. He's the Chief Curator. The first thing I'm going to talk about is you have a mini exhibit here of Thomas Cole, the most important of the Hudson River school. What will people see if they are in this? I know you have more Thomas Cole down there. This is not everything, of course. But
Sure. Yeah, this is an exhibition that we opened just 2 weekends ago, and it really coincided with a talk that we had from Paul Schweitzer, a scholar who just wrote a new book on Thomas Cole's Voyage of Life. And the Albany Institute has the oil sketches, Thomas Cole's original oil sketches, which were not on view, but we wanted to bring those out of storage, have those on view. And so what we did was also develop a small kind of survey exhibition of Thomas Cole. We have a large collection that consists of everything from some of his finished paintings, oil sketches, drawings. In fact, we have some of his earliest drawings that date 1823 that he was doing in Pittsburgh when he was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, before he even arrived in New York State. And then we also have correspondence. There's an interesting reward for the return of his wife's dog. So, it's kind of a mix of things.
Now, one of the things I saw, because I actually went to this, it's a study. What is, for one of his, larger, more famous paintings, they're not really big. What does that mean? It's a study for the bigger painting.
Sure. Well, before you actually spend the time and money and effort into creating a larger painting, especially a commission work, most artists, including Thomas Cole, would go through a series of concept drawings and then more finished works, kind of building up and deciding what components they wanted to use, how they were going to lay out the composition. So we have in our collection probably one of the earliest pencil sketches that he did on the back of an envelope. He might have been sitting, at his dining room table or kitchen table, and this thought came to him. And so there are 4 finished paintings in the series, and the series is called The Voyage of Life, and it really deals with kind of this metaphor of human beings' progress through life on the river of life. And it starts out with childhood. And so we have this early pencil sketch of this painting that he was thinking of. And the studies then kind of moved to the next step from these concept pencil sketches to more finished oil studies. And they're small. These, again, were kind of a way for Thomas Cole to look at the composition, but also think about the elements that he wanted to use, the shadowing, the light effects, color schemes. So they're really the step before he goes to the finished works, before he really starts working on the finished canvases.
I think, if I remember, all 4 of the Voyage of Life, all 4 paintings are there, right? Of the studies.
Yeah. We have all 4: childhood, youth, adulthood, and old age.
Now, when you see them, they're not really. You're right. They're not very big. But the finished works, I think they're in Utica. I'm thinking
there are actually 2 sets. The original set is at the Munson Williams Proctor Institute in Utica, and those were finished in right around 1840, and then 2 years later, Thomas Cole did another set, and those are at the National Gallery.
And how big are they?
Ours or
I know, not yours. The finished.
The larger ones are quite large. I think they're maybe 3 or 4 feet in width.
Okay. And the ones you have are only what?
They're smaller.
Yeah.
Again, they were sort of studies. A way for him to think about composition.
And there are also, besides these studies, there's also the studies for his famous series. Was it Civilization? Is that?
Well, he did another series, A Course of Empire.
I'm sorry, Course of Empire. That's right.
And we unfortunately don't have any of those studies.
I thought I saw. Okay.
We have another study for that was a series that he never finished. He actually died in 1848 before he completed it, The Pilgrim and the Cross. And that's we have one of those studies for that series. But
Now, one thing about the Albany Institute, I don't know if people know this, the role that the Institute has played, we're going way back now to the 1800s. The role the Institute has played in bringing Thomas Cole to the forefront in the Hudson River School. Could you give us a little history on that?
Yeah, well, our first Thomas Cole painting came into the collection in 1930, and that was a gift to the Institute. It was 2 works, actually. Thomas Cole painted a view of the Van Rensselaer Manor House. If you're driving in Albany and you know where Nipper the dog is, right in that area, there used to be a grand 18th century mansion that belonged to the Van Rensselaers. So in 1839, after Stephen III died, his widow and another Van Rensselaer descendant commissioned paintings from Thomas Cole of the house and the gardens. So those were the first pieces that came into our collection. And then in 1941, the Institute held the first what I would call the first 20th century retrospective exhibition of Thomas Cole's work.
This is anywhere in America? Right?
Anywhere, yeah.
Okay.
We were sort of pioneering the, kind of revitalizing Hudson River School art. After the Armory Show of 1913, most Americans relegated Hudson River School paintings to the basements. And it was sort of an unfortunate period when landscape art was not really valued. Americans really turned toward modern painting, modernist painting. And so in 1941, most of these Hudson River School paintings, whether it was at the Metropolitan or other larger museums, they weren't on view. And so our exhibition really kind of began the process of bringing Hudson River School art back into the galleries.
Is that true even of, is it Frederick Church?
Frederick Edwin Church was the same. Not only Thomas Cole, Frederick Church, but most 19th century American landscape paintings was still considered to be sort of old-fashioned. It wasn't appreciated. And then slowly, beginning in the 1940s and moving onward for the next few decades, finally Americans began to really appreciate it. It's an expression of our heritage, our own landscape. It was the beginning of an environmental movement, and so.
Because it seems like when you look at art books now, the Hudson River School is very prominent. It seems like it's sort of been there forever, but it's really only since the 40s.
Well, it's been there since the 19th century, but I think Americans have only begun to appreciate it, and not only Americans. There have been a number of exhibitions within the last 15 or 20 years in Europe looking at the Hudson River School. So it's really this first American school of art, again, looking at something that was uniquely American, the American wilderness, which was so grand compared to anything that Europe had and still has. And so there's been this reevaluation and a reappreciation.
Now, do you ever lend out some of your Hudson River School to galleries all over the world? Or?
We do. We lend paintings to other museums. We had two of our works actually this summer at the Thomas Cole House down in Catskill for an exhibition that they did. And we've lent our Hudson River Schools to museums not only here, but also again in Europe, outside of the U.S.
All right. And besides these mini Thomas Cole exhibit, there's also an ongoing exhibit, meaning it doesn't have an ending date, of some of these Hudson River artists. What's included in that? Sure,
yeah. Well, we have a nice collection of Hudson River School art, and we've discovered over the years that for visitors coming into the region and even our own community members, they like to see, again, something that relates to the region. And so we generally have a large assortment of our Hudson River School paintings on exhibition. And right now we have a number of our major works on view in the third floor galleries. And it's Thomas Cole, Frederick Edwin Church, John Frederick Kensett, Jasper Cropsey. It's all of the biggies, the biggies in Hudson River School art.
I have a question because I recently went to this, and it's very interesting. Why landscape? I mean, it seems like the wilderness sort of overwhelms all the human figures, and sometimes the towns are little. Why was it so grand? I mean, they almost raised it to this mythological proportions. It seems.
Well, it's interesting. I'll step back just slightly, and I had friends visiting from Europe, and when one of the first things they wanted to do was go to all the national parks, see the wilderness, see these, grand expanses of, mountain ranges or whatever it may be, and it's interesting because even today, America still has these vast wilderness tracts that most other countries, especially in Europe, they've ceased to exist. You have smaller pockets of forests and nice mountain ranges, but it's certainly much more concentrated than you have in the United States. And so in the 19th century, that was what American painters began to see as uniquely American. It was something that they could paint. America was really trying to find its own identity. In the 1820s, 1830s, it had been a new nation for 50 years or so, but culturally, it still looked to Europe for both paintings and literature. And so they were struggling and trying to find something that really identified them as unique from Europe. And they saw this vast wilderness, these expanses of forests and mountain ranges, and that's why they concentrated on the landscape.
Okay. And that's there. Oh, that's an ongoing thing. The second thing we'll talk about, we talked a little bit about this last time, you have the quilts, coverlets, and bed hangings in a textile. We talked about this before, and I saw some pictures, but I recently went. When you see these, they're way bigger than I thought. What are some of the size of those?
Well, they do range in size, and it is interesting when you look around the room. There are some that would probably fit a queen size bed today, and there are some that, we have one in the exhibition that was made specifically as a crib quilt for a small child's bed. So they do range in size, and when you see them in person, they're really striking. I mean, they're little works of art unto themselves.
Yeah. And there's all different different kinds of design and different materials. Can you talk about a little bit about the different kinds there are? Some of them I saw were stitched together, literally piece by piece. Some are one piece with designs on them. There's there's a wide range of things.
Sure. Yeah, we generally tend to call it a textile exhibition at work. Our title is Undercover, and it's a combination of quilts, woven coverlets, and then we also have a very rare set of 18th century bed hangings that are embroidered with wool thread. It's called crewel work. Those are actually on a bed, so when you...
The one in the middle of the room.
One in the middle of the room. When you walk down the hallway, that's the first thing you see. And it's really pretty amazing, too. These were bed hangings that were hand embroidered beginning in the 1740s and continued probably in the 1750s. A woman in Stonington, Connecticut started the project. Her name was Mary Stanton. And she unfortunately died before they were completed, but her daughter picked up and finished those. And they eventually arrived here in Albany in the early part of the 20th century. They descended through marriage, always passed down to daughter, in one instance, granddaughter. Coincidentally, they were all named Mary, so the family called them the Mary bed hangings. But we also have quilts, so those are a combination of the pieced quilts, with intricate patterns. Some of them are recognizable today by quilters, and then others are probably not so common today. There are these quilts called whole cloth quilts that really they're not patched quilts. They're not pieced together from smaller pieces.
They're like one piece.
One piece, but the intricacy is in the detailed quilting of them.
Oh, okay. There's some of them are, I should show, this is one of them right here, the cover. These designs are all embroidered on. Is there any sense of how long it would have taken to do some of that? Do you know? Or
weeks or months in some cases. Well, in the bed hangings, we know that it took at least several years, probably more than a decade to complete.
And some of them, I was asking before, they have wood block, printed on. Is printed the right word to say?
No, you're right. Some of the earlier quilts from the 18th century that are whole cloth, again, it's one whole piece of fabric, or sometimes two or three pieces, but it's all the same pattern. Those covers, the cloth that is used on the cover was block printed, mostly in England. There's one that probably was block printed in India and then eventually passed through England to the Hudson Valley in the 18th century. And you're right, there would have been a design carved in wood, and then the design was actually printed with dyes onto the textile itself.
I mean, and they're very geometric. I mean, they're very set, the same spacing and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And the other thing about that's very interesting is some of the themes that are on here. They're a lot of family, of religion, childhood. Some of them have theme. One of them had themes of America along the border, like was that Independence Hall or something? But
yeah. One of the things we wanted to look at was the patterns, the designs, and what it meant to the people that made them. So I think the one that you're mentioning is a woven coverlet. We have two or three woven coverlets in the exhibition, and this one was one that was woven for a woman named Anna Wheeler in 1829, and it's a combination of Masonic symbols. Her husband more than likely was a Mason, a Freemason, but it also has these great patriotic slogans. Like one I think says something about agriculture and manufacture are basically at the heart of our independence. And in fact, it was dated July 4th, 1829. So, these textiles that were utilitarian pieces. These, I had a couple people ask me if these were meant to be hung on the wall, and no, these were
They actually
not,
use them to sleep at night.
These were actually utilitarian items. But by having this on her bed, she and her husband in some way were expressing their patriotism.
I mean, it's hard to believe when you see them, and I should tell people you got to go see this because when in person, it's very impressive. It's hard to believe that they would have used them at night to sleep on.
Well, what's amazing is that they used them, but that they also survived.
I wonder if they thought one day they'd be seen as works of art hanging in a museum.
I don't know. It's interesting.
And then that goes through till March 8th?
March 15th.
Oh, that's right.
We extended that a week.
And then was Thomas Cole extended also?
Thomas Cole will close at the end of January in preparation for an upcoming exhibition that will open in February.
All right. Now, before we get to some upcoming things in the spring, we want to get Anya back in here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of what people always like, some of the free admission days, and some of upcoming programs the show will be on through Thanksgiving and January and February. You can tell us a little bit about that.
One of the things that we have that we started last year were free admission days on holiday Mondays that are sponsored by M&T Bank. So upcoming ones would be Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day in 2015, and we also have free admission hours on Thursday nights from 5 to 8 p.m. and that's every week. We won't be open for Thanksgiving and things like that, but
you are having many events over Thanksgiving.
Yes, Thanksgiving weekend, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday after Thanksgiving, it's a free admission weekend. We have special events on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which include guided tours, special demonstrations. For instance, the Embroidery Guild of America, the local chapter, will be coming and doing demonstration work in the spaces, which is really exciting because you'll be able to see some of the active materials. Yep. We have a craft fair with specialty toys for kids if you're interested in doing your holiday shopping, as with vendors. And we're also having Santa and a live reindeer on Friday, so that's a fun day. We're going to actually have a live reindeer on the front lawn.
Friday of Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving. It's really exciting. It'll be very interesting to see. Don't be surprised if you're driving by. Yes, that is a live reindeer on the lawn. And on Sunday, we're actually focusing on Dutch food. Peter Rose, the food historian, is going to be talking about her new book at a free lecture. And we're also going to be having some treats available that a baker has taken some of those recipes and made some Dutch treats. So you can see some of the things that Peter talks about in her discussion. So that will be very interesting. And we will have, all the galleries will be open those days and things like that. So we're going to be decorated too. Some people will remember the Festival of Trees. This weekend was kind of inspired to bring back some of that type of material. We will have decorated trees throughout the museum. We're actually asking for community-made ornaments to decorate those trees. There'll be an artist tree as well with specialty ornaments made by local artists that will be for sale as well. So it's going to be it'll be a fun, busy day. 3 days actually after Thanksgiving, and we're looking to be able to invite not only the local, but some people have out-of-town guests that weekend. It's a great time to come by the museum.
And I see on here, I'm sure this is a kids thing, but coming up in February, you're having the Lego Challenge.
Oh, the Lego Challenge.
What is that?
That is fun. It is not just for kids. We have some very enthusiastic Lego builders who wouldn't be classified as children anymore, but they're great. It is a multi-day competition related, and the information will be on our website once we get all the details worked out. But the theme will actually be baseball. It's going to tie into the opening of the baseball exhibition, and so
the Lego thing it's going to be a baseball theme.
It will be a baseball theme. Last year, for instance, we had a Egyptian-themed Lego building challenge, but this year it's going to be based on baseball, and it will be pretty exciting. From stadiums to, we don't want to stifle any creativity, so baseball is the overall theme.
And so, speaking of upcoming, in the spring, we have two items we can talk about. We talked a little bit about this last time, but maybe you can talk a little more, Doug. The upcoming baseball exhibit's going to be starting in. I have it. It starts in when?
It'll be opening February 6th for our first Friday.
All right. And It has 3 components, I think.
Yeah, there are 3 components. There's actually a traveling exhibition from the Bank of America. They started collecting in conjunction with the Ken Burns series, the baseball series that many of you may recall. So we have that as a traveling component. And then Albany itself, the Capital District, has had a very long and rich history in baseball, stretching back into the middle of the 19th century. And one of the components will be a local history of baseball in the Capital region, again from the mid-19th century up to the present. And then there's another section that is really looking at what the community collects as far as baseball. And it's not just Albany or Capital District baseball team memorabilia, it's things that they've collected. So you could live in the Capital District but be interested in San Diego or baseball happening in Pittsburgh or wherever it may be. And so it's kind of looking at what people in the community collect.
Can people, they can showcase their own?
Sure. We are very interested in learning what collections the community has. So if you have anything related to baseball, if you've been collecting things, give us a call and we'll take a look at those.
And now, have you heard from people yet?
We have. Some of the collections have started coming in from various community members, and again, it's amazing. It's sort of all over the board what people collect.
Do you have can you give us a few examples? I mean,
I'm trying to think. There are photographs of family members involved in baseball activities, as well as early Yankees memorabilia.
I figured there'd be a lot of Yankees stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing that's coming up in the spring, I think you're still working on it. It's the Capital Region in 50 items or 50 objects.
Yeah, that's actually scheduled for next fall.
Fall of 2015. Okay,
so
you guys are still working on that.
Yeah, still working on that. That's a project that will really sort of look at the top 50 people, places, ideas, events that kind of classify and characterize this region.
Well, that is, here working in the library the last couple of years, there's a lot of books with these kind of themes. Yeah. The Civil War in 100 objects, the history of New York in 50 objects, 101 objects that made it. You probably get the idea. There's all kinds of things. So I think that will be really cool. But people can still I know on the website, people can still make suggestions for under different categories.
Sure. Yeah. Times Union has been working with us. They started a reader poll a while ago where there are 5 themed areas looking at everything from political events in the region to cultural events in the region, and they began that poll by asking their readers what they thought were the top things that identified the region, and we're going to take that list and look at other responses and then start narrowing it down to.
And then you'll actually hopefully have some of the actual objects.
Yep, certainly.
And that's going to be fall of 2015.
Fall of 2015.
And then the baseball opens February 6th. Okay.
For the first Friday, we usually try to open a show with something on a Friday. So we're opening it up, and it should be a really fun opening. People are excited about baseball. So
they always. It's the off-season time, so people will be gearing up.
I know, getting ready for spring training and all sorts of things. It'll be in the forefront.
So, Anya, as a public relations director, have I forgotten anything that you want to talk about?
Ooh, come on down.
Okay.
Always come on down. And there's parking available in the lot. Sometimes people forget that we have free parking available just behind the museum at the corner of Elk and Dove. So that's a great thing to do. If you're looking for shopping for holidays, you don't have to pay admission to go see our shop. And our shop always has a great selection
people can
of
just come in they can just walk in the shop.
Yep, it's a great opportunity, and the shop also will be having organizing book lectures and signings and things both on Thursday nights, which are free, and Sundays, which are included in museum admission. So those are all on our calendar is online, and it is full. So
it's AlbanyInstitute.org.
Correct.
And I just want to mention about the parking. It's you got to go past it and come up the back because it's.
You can either go on Dove Street
you
into that side,
you can take a left,
or you can go up Elk and hit it that way.
Okay, free parking. That'll get people down there.
Yeah, people forget that we have it, and we don't want them to forget.
It's the same at the Albany Public Library. People don't know they have a parking lot in the back there.
Exactly.
Well, Doug, thank you for coming. We'll have you back when the 50 objects are. And Anya, I'm sure we'll see you again.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
And that is it. We'll see you down at the Albany Institute. I want to tell people you got to go see it before it ends in March. The quilts and coverlets, they're very impressive to see in person, besides the Thomas Cole. So we'll see you next time on Getting to Know You.